growing weary of running from room to room, practicing one-tooth insurance-driven dentistry? Then stay tuned for the latest episode of The Lionhearted, where Dr. Stephen Rasner will hand you the blueprint for what many call the gold standard of general practice dentistry.
Hi everyone, Dr. Steve Rasner here on the Lionhearted Dentist Podcast. I think I should rename the podcast to You Can Never Trust What Rasner's going to talk about the following week, because he always goes off script. And that's because I've been doing a lot of these podcasts after work, and Monday through Thursday is when I work. And that's when I also do most of my interactions with you and dentists from around the country. So it provokes thoughts to me, which is one of the reasons I like doing them after work. Even though I know you can tell in my voice it's not so powerful right now, but I will get it together. So, first of all, shout out and thanks to my colleagues in Germany and Ireland. Whoever's over there downloading me, I appreciate it. And the rest of you from all over the world. Last week, I had the audacity to say to you, would you allow me to give you $10,000 next month? And of course, what I meant when I said that, because I also said to you, some of you aren't trying hard enough. I can tell in listening to you. And some of you are giving up too easy. I said that too. Or you're not giving it long enough. I know I've said this from so many angles, and I'm talking about case presentation. I am here tonight to ask you some questions, right? Tell me why you wouldn't assimilate some type of screen in your initial patient data entry phone call. Why wouldn't you assimilate a screen? So what am I talking about? So those of you that have turned in for the first time tonight, I've kind of lost track of how many of these I've done, podcast, but I've spent an inordinate amount of time, because that's how important it is, on the process from when a patient calls you to that moment that you make treatment recommendations. And that all begins with the intake person in your office. And I also told you last week that I'm going to go over this over and over again till I hear enough chatter that makes me believe that more of you are listening. And by the way, I have a lot of time, so I can do and go. I love talking clinical, but what good's clinical talk? And you have to tell me that you want me to go back to that. By the way, I mean, that is the essence of my practice. You're listening to the wrong podcast if you think that my message is bells and whistles and pretty staff running all over the office in fancy clothes and uniforms, waterfalls pouring through my reception room, opulent art, all things that I've seen in offices, which is fine. But that, at the end of the day, will not sustain you. What will sustain you is clinical excellence. What will sustain you is a reputation that you stand behind the services that you do, no matter what else you've got going on. The other will burn out like a candle. Do you understand me? So at the beginning of this podcast, I said to you, would you allow me to give you $10,000? And I was talking about just implementing a fraction, not even everything, but truly assimilating one of the many cornerstones that I incorporate in that experience I'm alluding to from the time the patient calls you to the time that you deliver your recommendations. There are a multitude of steps there. Why are not more of you executing them? They do not cost money. What would you have to lose except time? It is exactly the root of the many of your other problems. Bad morale in the office, lack of cash flow, inability to take time off, inability for CE, patients turning you down. I mean, we could go on and on. That is why. Moth-eaten hygiene schedules. Just significant downtime from you. Another wasted day. So I thought the best way would be to ask you how I started. Why would you not have a screen? Because what the screen does is a series of questions by your new patient coordinator who's taking that call and allows her to eliminate those patients, which probably isn't many, by the way. There are not many patients that won't come in if you follow the screen. And the screen is just a series of questions that at some point in that introduction, you're going to say, this is how the first appointment's going to work. That your new patient coordinator is going to say that. Dr. Smith will take a full set of radiographs and he'll look at your entire mouth. We know that you called with a specific issue, but his or her recommendations will be very dependent on the rest of your mouth. Docs, are you hearing me? Isn't that true? You're going to recommend root canal and a crown on number 31 if they have a limited budget and there's 8 other carious lesions that you can save those teeth with direct restorations if that's what it needs to have. I would assume you would subscribe to my thinking, a comprehensive care approach. So why would you not do that? Why would you not have a re-interview that you've heard me talk about the moment they get into the office? And before you did that, in your morning meeting, do you even have one? You would be discussing that new patient that's coming in at 10:30 and hopefully the one at 1 o'clock. Is that just a random, uncoordinated event in your office? Or does the front desk know to be looking at 11 o'clock for the 11 o'clock new patient? We have the patient come 15 minutes before their scheduled appointment because being on time is never a problem for us. Why? Because the CEO of the company, the owner of the business, makes it very well known that we need to be on time because people value that, and it separates us from the rest of the pack. And that is me. Oh, I surely have flaws, but following these principles and trying to get my staff to follow them and understand isn't the reason we don't have to work nights and weekends and have basically banker hours. The reason that we don't have to have long lines of patients each day is because we get high case acceptance. So why would anybody listening not want that? Okay, so I'm asking you, why not have a screen? Why not have an orderly process to when they enter the office on the given day of their appointment, which includes being seen on time at the front desk, filling out the paperwork if they haven't done that yet, being taken back to an operatory on time, having a full set of x-rays, which they're not going to deny because they were told that over the phone. So you better believe in my career I've had more than one hygienist come to me and say, "Hey doc, what do you want me to do? They won't let me take any x-rays." Well, that hasn't happened in 20 plus years. I don't know the last time. It's impossible to happen, actually. Or somebody objecting to a full exam. And then why wouldn't you at least try to get the significant other, if they indicated need at that initial phone call? Well, that's not hard to coordinate, right? If somebody says, "Oh my God, you're going to love my mouth. I've been trying to come to you for years. I just decided to make that move." No, we won't bring up the significant other in that case, or their 16-year-old daughter and the rest of their family that they want to transfer over to us because they found us to be appealing. No, and it's not every case, but it's a high majority of cases. And of course, that is an offshoot of the fact that we are branding ourselves as a practice that patients can be sedated for their work. And we have for a very long time. And so that is our reputation. So it's so often that that initial call is connected to somebody that does have significant need and becomes a very easy conversation about the significant other. If I've never made it clear before, we don't get 100% or 90 or 80 probably. We get about 70. Way more often than half. No, I haven't done the math, but we've done it so long, I know what I'm saying to you is true. And I believe it to be true for you. And if any of you need assistance in literally the language used, it's very simple. You can write to me, but Michelle simply says, "We've been doing this a long time." Or if I was doing it a short time, I'd say, "We know from even the few years we've been doing this, that when a person has multiple needs, they make better decisions if 4 eyes and 4 ears are listening to the doctor." And it's true. And it saves time in the long run. It does. So why wouldn't you implement it? I'm assuming those of you watching me right now have not implemented these principles, and I am asking you why not. None of these cost money. From the first thing I've said so far to asking a significant other to attend. And then why would you not go through at least most of the protocols that you've heard me talk about? So for those of you that haven't heard them, I begin when I walk in, and I know some of you do know this, so you can go get a cup of coffee or turn me off. That I begin by walking in. Oh, by the way, my teeth are brushed. I try to make sure that I don't have any impression material on any part of me. A nice new white coat never hurts. I don't think other than that you look clean and professional, that anything else is that important. Long hair, short hair, whatever. What you're wearing certainly needs to be. I'm telling you, if you think I am being over the top right now, then you need to Google when you're done with this podcast about how long it takes people to make an impression of you. It's tenths of a second the first time they look at you. So do you have that piece of lettuce from lunch for the 1 o'clock new patient? Or not? Do you just don't look fresh? I don't know, guys. It's still an event to me. 40 years into it, and God knows how many new patients I've met. They won't not be coming to me because I don't look fresh or interested in them. So then why would you not do that? And then why not walk in, sit down, and say, hey, I'm Dr. Such and Such. Welcome to the practice. Do you say that? Do you look them in the eye? Do you smile on purpose? Sometimes you'll see me do what I'm doing right now. Because it's so easy when you're intense to not smile. And it's a good thing. It's a reciprocal thing to do. I must be killing you this week because I really do think I'm spot on right this minute with this process with you and asking you, do you do this? So how did you guys find us? That's the opening two things I say. Hey, welcome to our practice. Glad to have you. How'd you find us? Test your marketing. Maybe it strikes up an initial conversation because your sister comes to us. Their sister comes to us. Or something along those lines. And then, why would you not take a moment? Seems odd because you're not supposed to talk about yourself so much. But if you do it the way I'm telling you, it doesn't sound in any way offensive. And that's when you would say, listen, there's a lot of offices you could be going to. I like to tell you about our office because I'm pretty sure it's going to be different. And I know you're going to like it. Just like that. And I proceed to tell them about I don't use the word passion, but I tell them about, I've always been a doctor that wanted to know everything I could, as much as I could, about my profession. And the way that we do that in my profession is something that's called CE, continued education. I've never had anybody look at me and say, why are you telling me that? They know, they get it. Whether they're a laborer in a factory or any blue-collar worker or obviously a professional. They get it. And I would believe that many of you listening have done that. And you don't have to go over the top. And I then proceed to tell them that I've learned so many cool things that have made this practice what it is. Like I assume they know what this practice is. A very successful practice. By the way, I can say that with confidence to them because I've already know that there's a palpable feel that they can sense and put their arms around in this experience they've had thus far. And I'll say, but one of the things I learned the most is something I call what to do when. What to do when. This is how I swear to you guys, that's how I say it. And what that means is every time a dentist is in the situation you and I are in right now, we meet a new patient. How do you know what's the right thing to recommend? Doesn't every dentist know that? And I think the answer is no. I can tell you what we do, and I can tell you what I don't want to be. We're not going to be overzealous. We're not going to change every filling in your mouth because it doesn't meet my standards. They like that when you say that. We may have no interest or telling you about a tooth that's been missing for years unless we think it's having a debilitating effect on the rest of your mouth. By the same token, we also don't want to be doctor neglect and tell you everything looks good. We'll watch that. We'll watch this. And then when I retire or when I'm not here anymore, you go to somebody else and you find out all the watches we were doing are a mouthful of pathology. And you guys listen to me know that indeed can happen. So I just told them in their opening 5 minutes, think about it. I welcomed them to the practice. I deliberately smiled a lot. at least once in a while. I asked them how they knew us, which always starts a good conversation. I told them about our passion in this my passion in being a dentist. I told them that I'm not going to be overzealous and I'm not going to be neglectful. That's a pretty damn good start if you just start with that. But then I think you need to take it a little bit further. And you say something along these lines. We know that you called because you had this thing going on in the upper right, I believe, Mrs. Smith. But the mouth is like any other part of your body. Now I'm talking to you guys right now. When I'm having this conversation, I go in a lot of directions. I don't always say it the same way. But I do say something along the lines that your mouth is unlike any other part of your body. This particularly is effective if you have a patient that doesn't think they have a lot of needs, but you looked at the rays, and you can tell pretty quickly that this is more than one broken tooth. I mean, am I exaggerating? Or do you not walk into a room with a new patient sometimes at 50 years old that is missing 7 teeth already? He's never had a crown. He's got gum inflammation. Not massive bone loss, but some bone loss. He has MOD, MOUSE type of fillings. And he's never had sophisticated, or let's be honest, appropriate work. Or never even been educated as to that option. And you might make the very wrong assumption that he's not interested. Maybe he never knew that that was even a possibility. And certainly it's a good time to remember that if I was a dermatologist, it gets a little easier because usually you can see what is wrong with your eyes. But in the mouth, it doesn't work that way. So what I do, no matter why you come to me, why you made that call, is I look at 5 things on you. The health of your gums, the health of every tooth, your missing teeth, the health of your joints and muscles, and is there extreme wear that has anything to do with what's wrong with your mouth. And lastly, I look at aesthetics, if that's an issue to you. Sometimes I never get to that. And that's how I start. And I will tell you, that sets the table for a comprehensive exam. Now, why wouldn't you do that? Even if you did it semi-quickly, it's not going to destroy hours of your day. I think you'll be shocked. Now, here's what's the hard part that we're going to talk about next week. The hard part is calculating in your mind based on the conversations that do come up during the exam, based on questions that you will ask. And calculating in your mind the proper treatment plan to recommend. And I can frame that by saying to you, I always try to be conservative. And they know that. And look, are you even looking at these 5 things? Even if you didn't look at aesthetics, because that's not of interest to them. And most of my cases aren't aesthetic cases. But if you looked at the health of their gums, and that's just part of the deal. Can you picture this? I actually turn my chair around and I say, I want you to look in this box right there. And I'm going to go through these x-rays and from your right to your left. And as I'm going through them, I will explain what we're looking at. And whenever I can tell them good stuff, I do. And then as we go through, look, sometimes it gets complicated. It does. I had a patient today, who wore an upper denture. She went through all my screens that you heard me talk about. So she let me take x-rays. She let me do an exam. And her interest was around maxillary implant dentistry. And she had been to a corporate chain who gave her a fee. And as I went through what I'm describing with you right now, I was getting bad vibes from her. I was starting to feel red flags. Not about my approach, just the conversations that were generated. I found her to be not accountable for her mouth. And I want to tell you, the more that we talked, I said to her, I want to tell you something that's really important to me. I'm not a salesman here. And if you want to go through this, I am delighted to be the guy to take you through it. But I don't want you going through this with any unrealistic expectations. This is a significant journey for you that you really have to want. And I'm talking about somebody who needed vertical bone augmentation on her maxilla and had been wearing a denture for 15 years. That's kind of a bad sign. By the way, I did an implant retained prostheses last year on a 90-year-old who wore a denture for 1 year and hated his life. Listen, let's get over the 90. It's the oldest one I've ever done. 90's not 90. That's all I can tell you. 88's not 88. No age is anything. Everybody is an individual. And this gentleman was different. I'm only saying that to you because when somebody's been in a situation for 15 years, how motivated are they as opposed to the person that came to see you 6 months, 1 year after wearing this foreign thing called a denture? She certainly went home to think about things, and I didn't pull any punches, and I said nothing to convince her this was the right thing to do. I didn't want to convince her because I know how hard that case is. So this isn't about tricking people, ladies and gentlemen. It's about being honorable, that they really understood your treatment plan. And I got to tell you, we have never had it more together, and I've never had more positive feedback. It's just too long to take you past this stage this week. But I hope I've instilled a reincarnation of my approach to that initial visit and to the comprehensive dental approach. You can't be scared of it. The way I present this, and if you present it like this in any way, it's not threatening. I hope this helped you guys. I enjoy so much, especially lately, doing this. And I hope you keep listening. And I hope you have a great week. And I'll see you next week on The Lionhearted Dentist. Stay strong.